Welcome. Today we'll be talking about our relational energy and a vision for our life as we move into the next chapter of this wonderful experience. So we catch energy through our interactions with other people. If someone's in a good mood, it can lift us up. If somebody is having a hard time, it can drag us down. And we all know that at the most basic level. We know when it's extreme. We know when somebody's really, really upset. It can bring us down. And we use those words quite frequently. But I am not sure we quite understand how deep this goes into our emotional state. I love the work by Kim Cameron and others as they look at how we show up. We don't just show up and are independent of others. We show up and we share the same air, we share the same resources as others in our surroundings, whether it's in our community or in our business setting. And so, because of this, because we're impacted so much by others, when someone is sick, we can ignore it, but ultimately it does impact us, whether it's somebody else who works alongside us and it requires us to pick up some pieces or do some extra work, or whether somebody influences or interrupts our flow for some reason. It always seems to be something that we minimize instead of really understand how it works for us and for others. I love the study that Google did to look for its perfect team. And I'm not sure what they were looking for when they started out, but I know that what they found was that the most important thing for really wonderful teams and teams to be productive and efficient and flowing was for there to be psychological safety. And that simply means that each one of the team members can show up, speak their mind in a very kind way, right, to contribute their best self to the situation. And I'm thinking that there's a possibility that what is missing in this is that we continue to blame the boss, which I do believe the manager sets the tone. The manager, the leader sets the tone for the environment, but we minimize how important every one of our beings is, every one of our moods, every one of our ways that we show up in the workplace or in the team or in our family. So, going beyond the psychological safety that we're going to go a little bit more into, certainly we want to be as individuals showing up at ourselves. We want to be dependable. We want that structure and clarity. So we know what's expected of us and what's expected of our teammates. We certainly want meaning in our lives. And I will say that I've been a leader in organizations before, and I understand that there is a way that us as managers and leaders can impart meaning to others. We can help to identify how to align individual goals, strengths, and resources to the betterment of the organization. I also believe that it's for each of us to find that meaning, to ensure that we either find the meaning where we are or look for meaning elsewhere and move in that direction. And of course, we all want to have impact. I believe that we are growing, curious individuals and that we are our very best when we're like a plant, growing fresh connections in our brain, having fresh thoughts and new ideas for creative exploration. So we can look at this and individuals to make sure that the number one necessity is met, that are safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. That members of the group are able to say what they need to say and that they do what they're going to do, that they're all dependable, and that each team member has clear roles and plans for their goals, that they all align together, and that people can feel in synchronicity to each other and have that impact. I believe that when we're in flow as an individual, that we can have synergy and be in flow with others. When one of us is struggling, it's very difficult not to interrupt or to stop the flow for other people when we're hurting, especially when we're close to others. And so I want to encourage us to own our own flow, to own our own sense of meaning, to own our own mood and how we show up in any given situation. As we've talked about in other classes and other parts of the coursework, when we're above the line in this place of curiosity, we can have deeper connection. We can tap into the curiosity and the creativity that I believe is our natural state of being. When I look at my grandson Jasper, I see this curious little child who just wants to explore the world. And at some stage, when we stop exploring, we often stop growing and we stop finding that joy. So I want to encourage all of us to explore our growth mindset, to tap into the gratitude that we have so that we can stay above the line in this place of play and enjoy, to become the observer of our life, to be able to stand above the line, to witness all that's happening in our world, and to honor those triggers that might drop us below the line. It's easy when we're in a good place, maybe when we have the availability to be on this call, even to be on in this class. That means we're pretty free. We're not in a state of fear if we can be here online, sitting in a class, listening to what's going on. So I believe that most of us are probably in a good place if we're here, that our thoughts, our emotions, our bodily sensations are above the line, that our behaviors are in line with who we want to be and how we want to show up. And when we're in that place, life feels pretty easy because we are tapped into those positive things. We're tapped into opportunities, into gratitude and connection with other people. The difficulty is that it can take less than a second for someone to ding your car, to them to run into you, to for someone to upset the apple cart and to cause us stress. And that can happen, and we can be wise. We can understand that it doesn't serve us to be below the line. And then as we practice this, most of us can get better that instead of marinating below the line, instead of finding all that is wrong with our life, which often happens when we're below the line, we have access to all those disturbing memories, all those disturbing moments in our life that didn't go well for us. Whatever it is that feeling is, whether it's fear or that gossip, that need for approval, wherever we go below that line. For me, it's a gift because it draws out values for me, what's important to me. It draws out a history of that emotion that I can now heal. And so, as we're below the line, as we start to feel those emotions that we feel, instead of looking for more things wrong below the line, and instead of looking in that place, although we can heal that level of emotion that brought us there. We can start to understand when we first started to feel that emotion and to look at it more objectively without emotion so that we can better heal it. When we stay too long below the line, what ends up happening is that we can get depressed and we can get burned out and we can stay down there because it zaps our energy. And when we're below the line, what happens according to research is that eye tracking and the attention of burned out individuals ended up being the same. Whether you're depressed or burned out, individuals in that state are almost unable to see positive stimulus and stimuli. Instead, all they can see are the negative things that seem to be impacting their lives. So, in other words, our focus determines our reality, and the perceptions that we have determine how we feel. So, if those are interchangeable and we think about these things, when we're in a state below the line, we are going to see the first thing here as a cleaver, the second thing as an alligator, and the third as a snake, all threats to our humanity. When we're in a state above the line, most often we're going to see the pot, we're going to see a squirrel, and we're going to see just an innocent little rope that's lying on the ground. It Our perception, our lens for which we see the world, our stance on whether we're above the line or below the line matters in how we see the world at large. In other words, burned out and depression at its core is an impaired ability to see positive things and to experience positive emotion. So when we're below the line, what we can access is going to be survival. We're going to want to take control. We're going to have a need to find fault and blame and protect our ego, to gossip about others, to make ourselves feel better, when in the end, none of this serves us. So I was asked the other day, what to me were the most important things that I'm teaching if we were to simplify it down. And the first would be a solid belief and understanding that it never serves me to be below the line unless I'm in physical danger. When I'm in physical danger, then I need to lash out. Then I may need to do these things. But even then, I don't see any place and time where fault and blame is valuable, where a need for control is valuable, unless, again, it's a safety situation, that I would need a place where I need approval. One of the things that I've learned in my life that keeps coming back for me is how important my own sense of approval for who I am. When I get really clear with who I am and I stay very clear with what my values are, how I want to live my life, how I want to show up for other people, then the approval from others is no longer needed because I know who I am. I know how I want to show up, and I'm able to guide my behaviors and my being into the best version of myself. What I do throughout these classes is really help um, participants find who they are at their core and to start creating the internal and external environment they need to live that more each day. And we can each do that when we start to understand how powerful our mind is and how simple it is to align with our internal energy and power. We can sit on the line. It does not mean that we have to be jumping up and down and high energy all the time. Sometimes it simply means that we acknowledge that we are blessed, that we acknowledge some of the goodness in our lives, and that we're tired, and that we just need to get curious if we feel like it, or we just need to give it a little time. Sometimes when we're tired, sometimes when we're burned out, sometimes when we've given too much. When we're down below the line, then we look for all the other things that are wrong, and we can find it. We will find everything that's wrong with our lives if we spend more time below the line. When we're above the line in a place of creativity and joy, the opportunities are so expansive and so abundant that we get to choose how and when we want to spend our time. And a lot has to do with how we focus our attention and what we focus our attention on. If we look for the opportunities, they are everywhere. If we look for what's wrong, we will find that too. I have a short video, and I'd like you to watch it. And if you've seen it before, just enjoy it. If you haven't seen it, I want you to take some few minutes to watch the video. Be sure to watch the people in white. I want you to count how many times they pass the ball. So the white team is going to have a ball, they're going to pass it, and your job is to count how many times they pass it to each other. Here we go. So it actually doesn't matter how many times they pass the ball. The question really is, did you see the gorilla? And so if you saw the gorilla, great. If you didn't see the gorilla, I suggest you rewind and watch this again and look for the gorilla because the gorilla is certainly there. He plays a big role in this because when we are hyper focused on what's wrong in our life, we oftentimes miss those beautiful things that are right. We often take them for granted. We often lose track of the important things in our lives. Not to say the gorilla is an important thing in your life, but it's just a simple example. And so I'm curious, what is it as you look at this and you know what your focus has been? What is it that you are willing to let go of in 2025? And you can pause the recording. You can sit with this for a little bit over the next couple of days. But what are you willing to let go of this next year? And one of the themes that arose in an earlier class was to let go of comparing myself with others, and by letting go of defining my success on my own terms instead of looking for outside validation. And so I appreciate those who were in the class yesterday and appreciate sharing that as well. And so as we let go of limiting beliefs, as we let go of those things that no longer serve us, I want to encourage you to think about your life in terms of this little acronym, to activate your imagination, to think about all that is possible in your life, to imagine something that maybe you never thought of before. As we start to look around the world and see what's possible and get to know people and question everything in our lives, we can really have some inspiring moments, especially when we're brainstorming with others. Collect the resources that are available to you. Maybe it's just your physical health that you get outside and you get to take care of your body and spend time in nature. Maybe it's your best friend, or maybe you've got a little savings, or maybe you've got a stockpile of cards and you used to draw and you used to paint. Think of the tools and techniques and the gifts that you've been given, and re-examine what those are and find out what you're really grateful for and who you are at your core. To tackle your fears, because change can be scary, especially for those around us. For those who may be stuck in their ways, our change and our growth may be scary for them. They may be afraid that we'll no longer have time for them. And it's not a matter of not having time for other people. It's a matter of deciding who is on a growth curve with you, who's willing to play in the sandbox, and who's willing to support you living your best life. And that's the choice I make. I want to surround myself with all kinds of people, and always those folks who want to grow and learn alongside me, that we invest in tomorrow. Think about what we can do today that'll make tomorrow easier for us. Maybe that's going to the grocery store and buying the best possible fuel for our bodies. Maybe it's making sure we have a really good pair of walking shoes the next time we meet a friend for coffee and we suggest going for a coffee and walk together. Whatever it is, think about what it might be. It might even be asking a colleague to meet, or a boss to meet, or a mentor, somebody that you want to get to know and to align yourself more closely with. Think about those things you can do today that will make tomorrow easier. And be sure to always own the outcome. As I've said before, we are the writers, the directors, and the leading man or woman of this play that is our life. And I believe it is a play when we choose to live above the line and find reasons to play, enjoy, to get curious, and to just truly enjoy life with each other. And of course, we never want to give up. Now, one of my favorite stories about activating our imagination comes from my college coach. And he grew up in a rather rough household, and he decided in high school to try to throw this thing called the discus. And I was a discus thrower as well, and he was my coach at Stanford, but he had never even known what it might be like to dream. And one day, he had been in the local circuit with high school, as he told it, and somebody gave him this drawing. And it was a drawing of John not only just throwing the discus, but wearing a USA shirt and inside the Olympic rings. Someone had drawn the discus circle within the Olympic rings. And as John told me, he would put this picture over his TV, he would look at it, and he would start to imagine himself as an Olympic athlete. Of course, he practiced. Of course, he did all those things that he needed to do to become the best. And that's essentially what he did. He was able to imagine himself at his best and throw everything into it. And he did become a world record holder in 1975. He was a four-time Olympian, a bronze medalist, a seven-time US champion, and a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. He was my coach at Stanford, and I threw the discus as well, and he inspired me with a lot of his motivation and determination to be the very best. And yet it started with just a vision of what he could be, that he could be bigger than he had previously thought. Now, we've all seen examples of vision boards, and I've seen it where maybe Oprah did it with the big house she won on the hill and the car and the Corvette and all these different fancy things, probably a Tesla in this day and age. And what I've found is that through this process, I've found that what's most important is to start to identify how it is we want to feel, how it is that we want to show up in the world. And in 2022, when I left Stanford, I was feeling a little beat up. I had let myself go a little too long in a position that I wasn't thriving in. And so I created this vision board, and it has been one of the most powerful things for me. This is a vision of my family, all in places and healthy. My family has since grown in the last 3 years. It's a vision of me caring for the younger version of myself and feeling worthy. It's a vision of myself really connected to community and alive and focused on the beauty of our planet. I love this quote by Helena Bonham Carter. I think everything in life is art. What you do, how you dress, the way you love someone, and how you talk. Your smile and your personality, what you believe in, and all of your dreams. The way you drink your tea and how you decorate your home or party. Your grocery list, the food you make, how your writing looks, and the way you feel. Life is art. And I've come to believe that fully as I've created a life where I feel whole. I feel proud of the decisions I make. I apologize when I make a mistake. And I get up every morning looking to live my best life and hopefully bring hope to others that may be struggling. I want to encourage you to see your life also as that of a butterfly. None of us would ever attempt to take this butterfly out of its cocoon. None of us would attempt to force a little baby to walk before he or she were ready. And as the same, to embrace the word yet, knowing that we are not perfect. We will never be perfect. And yet we are on this journey and we're not there yet, wherever it may be. I know that I will spend the rest of my life trying to understand my mind, understand my motivations to create the life that I have that's full of care, love, and increasing wisdom. Thank you for being on this journey with me.